And the righty throws his first pitch. Goes inside. 1 ball, no strikes. White uniforms here tonight for the Bisons. Bisons across the chest in purple in scripts. And the pitch. Bradfield swings and lets that one foul. Left field side out of play toward the seats. Well, a gorgeous evening here for baseball. Temperatures low 70s here tonight. A slight breeze that cuts across the field toward left. A few clouds, but not too many, as the sun starts to set down that right field line. From the stretch for Witzke, he throws. It goes up and away. 2 balls, 1 strike. Bradfield at the plate, 6'1", the sophomore from Hialeah, Florida. Leads the conference with 14 stolen bases. And the pitch is swung on, hit hard, right field side, but it's foul. Misses the chalk by about 2 or 3 feet. So 2 balls, 2 strikes here on Bradfield Jr., batting .333. 2 home runs and 13 RBIs for the sophomore that won the SEC Freshman of the Year last year. Of course, the 3rd Vanderbilt Commodore to win that award, the first since Tony Kemp back in 2011. And from the stretch here for Witzke, he throws. Inside ball 3. Our 4 umpires here tonight calling the balls and strikes behind home plate, Mike Thomas. At first base, Micah Holman. At second base, we've seen him a bunch, Chuck Pack. That one is swung on and missed. Fastball outside part of the plate, Bradfield strikes out. Bit of a tailing fastball that time from Witzke, his 10th strikeout of the season.
Number 11, Davis Diaz.
Brings us to Davis Diaz. And just to round out the 4 umpires, Alfredo Burkett at third base. So Thomas calls the balls and strikes. Holman's at first, Pax at second, and Burkins at third. Here's Davis Diaz, third baseman for Vanderbilt, batting second. Right versus right. There's a fastball for a strike outside corner. 5'11", the freshman from Pittsburgh, California, batting .364. 1 home run, 14 RBIs for Davis Diaz. And the pitch by Witzke. Fastball skips off the turf. And it's 1 ball, 1 strike. The batting average has cooled off a bit for Davis Diaz, but still ranks top 10 in the SEC in on-base percentage. Almost 500, 478 for Davis Diaz getting on base. And the pitch. That misses outside. So 2 balls, 1 strike here to Diaz. Base is empty. 1 down, top of the first. And from the stretch for Colin Witzke. And the pitch. That's swung on, chopped toward the right side. Stamps has a play. Grabs it on the hop, throws off to first base for Williams. 4-3 is the putouts. Casual chopper that time to second base. And there's 2 down for Dom Keegan.
Dominic Keegan.
So the senior from Bethune, Massachusetts continues to have a fantastic season, batting .422. That ranks second in the conference. Has 5 home runs, 25 RBIs. Right versus right here for Dom. And the pitch. There's a strike that grabs the outside part of the plate with the breaking ball. No balls, 1 strike. Well, great to be back here at First Horizon and do so with fans. Of course, last time that Vanderbilt came here last Tuesday, as Dom swings and lifts this one down the right field line and foul. Had the threat of some weather in the evening, so the game got pushed up till noon. So we saw a bunch of people over at third and home, grabbing some lunch, having a drink, watching the game. But here tonight, a nice crowd funnels into First Horizon. The 0-2, up and inside, 1 ball, 2 strikes. Have the Stockyards down the left field line. skyline of Nashville straightaway center field with that gorgeous guitar scoreboard out at right center. Here's the pitch. Off the plate, 2 balls, 2 strikes. Wind does pick up a little bit, pushing off toward left field. It's 330 down the left field line here at First Horizon. It says 403. Straightaway center field, 310 down the right field line. Here's the pitch. Misses low. 2 balls, 2 strikes. Becomes 3-2 here on Tom Keegan. And already, by the way, Lipscomb has a right-handed arm warming up down the left field line, which tells you that Whiskey Certain is slated for just an inning or 2 here tonight. Called strike 3, outside corner. David Coppage, left fielder to lead things off. A transfer from Virginia. First pitch swinging, pops this one up. Foul territory, first base side, but this should get out of play. Maddox Houghton, the center fielder, and Mason Lundgren, the DH. 1, 2, 3 for Lipscomb here in this bottom of the first, scoreless so far. Coppage, a redshirt freshman from Chesterfield, Virginia, just outside of Richmond. And the pitch by Futrell is swung on, popped up right side of the infield. This one will tail and get out of play back into the seats. Clanks off those blue plastic seats down the right field line here at First Horizon Park. No balls, 2 strikes as Futrell works to Coppage. 176 is his batting average. No home runs and 2 RBIs. Futrell rocks and throws. Fastball stays high. 1 ball, 2 strikes. Well, for Futrell, fastball, slider, curveball, and changeup, the 4 pitches he goes to as he kicks and deals. That's swung on, hit hard toward left center field. This is going to be a long run for everyone, and it is down. It one hops the wall and skips over. So a ground rule double to start things off for David Coppage. Well struck baseball that time by Coppage. Drives that one out to left center field, gets the ground rule double. Fastball down at the knees. He just went down and got it and drove it out to left center. Here's Maddox Houghton, the center fielder, a senior from Dalton, Georgia, batting second here for Lipscomb. 300 batting average, 2 home runs, 12 RBIs. Well, the corners here for Vanderbilt take a couple of steps in. First pitch shows bunts. Foul tip. There's a throw back down to second base by Bulger, not in time as Coppage gets back. No balls, 1 strike as a strike is called on Houghton. So Diaz at third base, Keegan at first base, both come in case of bunts. And you've got Carter Young at short and Tate Colwick. Right up the middle for Vanderbilt, shortstop and second base as always. From the stretch, left versus right. And the pitch shows bunt, lays it down, right back to Bulger. He picks, he throws to first. There's the stretch to a sacrifice bunt by Houghton as Coppage goes to third.
Now batting for the Bison, number 35, Mason Lundgren.
So Mason Lundgren, the DH, a 6-foot sophomore from Salina, Kansas, batting third here for the Bisons. 307, no home runs, 15 RBIs. He'll stand in from the left side. Outfield here tonight for Vandy. Hewitt's in left field. Bradfield's in center. Faz is in right field. Here's the pitch. That one is swung on, hit hard to center field. Bradfield charges, misjudge it. He jumps and makes the catch. It's a sacrifice fly here for Lundgren, and Lipscomb takes a 1-0 lead here in the bottom of the first inning. Interesting route that time by Bradfield Jr. I say he misjudged it. He charged it really hard and then figured out quickly that that ball, if he kept going, was going to sail over his head. So he had to slam on the brakes, made the catch in center field, actually had to leap a little bit. Does make the play. There's 2 outs. Space is empty. And the leadoff double scores for Lipscomb. Here's the pitch. Goes up and away. Malik Williams at the plate, the first baseman, 6'4", out of Toronto, Canada. Ball 2. So Futrell's trying to settle in here. A couple of hard hit baseballs by the Bisons early on. Goes up and away. 3 balls, no strikes. As is the case, I think, with a lot of teams. It certainly seems like the Bisons are hunting fastballs early. Ball 4 as that one goes down. So second base runner. Here at this bottom of the first inning, Bisons 1, Vanderbilt nothing. Here's Rudy Maxwell. He's the catcher, a transfer from Duke. A graduate student from right here in Nashville, Tennessee. A chance to finish out his collegiate career right at home. From the stretch for Devin Futrell. Looks at Maxwell. Looks off to first, throws home. And it's a strike inside corner. Off-speed pitch. Looks like the changeup that time at 80 miles per hour for Futrell. From the stretch, here's the pitch. That one is swung on, hit hard out to left field. That is well struck. Hewitt's on his way to the warning track. He slows and makes the catch. About 3 or 4 really. Bisons did have a bullpen arm warming up down the left field line back in the first. So we do not expect Witzke to go much more than 2 or 3 here tonight. Right versus right with Bolger. Shows bunt, pulls back on a fastball up and in. 1 ball, no strikes. Jack Bolger batting in the 4th spot here tonight. Boy, if he could get going and really start to swing it, which they believe he can, that would dramatically change the lineup for Vanderbilt. And it's still been really good. Second in the SEC in team batting average. But Bolger, the sophomore from Maryland, batting .267. And the pitch. That one is swung on, lifted back and foul out of play. 1 ball, 1 strike here on Jack Bolger. 1 home run, 8 RBIs. Wears number 16 on the back of his uniform. Black uniforms here tonight. Gold numbers for Vandy. We talk so much about all of the guys that head coach Tim Corbin loves because they're multiple sports athletes, whether it's baseball, basketball, baseball, football. Here's the 1-1. That runs inside. Now it goes to 2-1. Jack Bolger would have been if he could, but Jack Bolger played at DeMatha, just outside of Washington, D.C., and that is a tough place to crack the basketball starting lineup. Here's the pitch. That one is swung on, hit back up the middle, and that's the base hit here for Jack Bolger to start things off top of the second. Big wide turn for Bolger at first base and comes back toward the bag. First hit of the ball game here for the Doors goes to Bolger.
Number 39, Gavin Casas.
Here's Gavin Casas, the DH. For those that are hyper plugged in to college basketball, of course, names like Victor Oladipo went to DeMatha, or Quinn Cook, who went to Duke and, of course, played for the Lakers, went to DeMatha. There is a long, long list of just all-star NBA and college talent that's gone through that particular program. So as much as Jack Bolger wishes he could have played basketball in high school, that one goes up and away, gets past the catcher Maxwell, and Bolger goes down to second base. Bolger just zeroed in on baseball for the sake of playing time, which seems wise. Casas, the DH, 6'3", the sophomore from Pembroke Pines, just outside of Miami. Open stance, left side. The pitch leaves that one up and away. 2 balls, no strikes. Well, .368 the batting average for Casas. 1 home run, 14 RBIs. And from the stretch for Witzke. That one is swung on. It is lifted down the right field line. Will this stay fair? Will it carry? It is back, and it is foul. Just yanked that one for Gavin Casas. Had the distance, would have been about 3 or 4 rows back down that right field line at 310. Just pulled it. And a total moonshot, too. That got well above the light towers. So 2 balls, 1 strike here on Casas. From the stretch, the pitch is down. And it skips off the dirt here. Bulger's down at second base. Vandy trails 1-0 here in the top of the second inning. Tate Kolek waits on deck here for the Doors, the second baseman from Memphis. Bats in the 6th spot here tonight to match his jersey number. The 3-1 from Witzke. Up and away, ball 4. Runners at first and second, so Vandy looking to do some damage here against what is typically a bullpen arm in Witzke.
Now batting for the Commodores, number 6, Tate Kolek.
So Kolek to the plate, right versus right. The senior from Memphis, Tennessee, batting .321. Does have 6 home runs, 21 RBIs. Has runners at first and second here, top of the second inning. Witzke throws. Off speed up and in. 1 ball, no strikes. Will Hoyt's at third. Ketchup is the shortstop. Stamps is at second base. And Williams plays first base here tonight for the Bisons. Maxwell's behind home plate as the catcher. The 1-0. Up and away that time. Fastball at 94. 2 balls, no strikes. Coppage is in left field. Houghton's in center field. And Boron's in right field. Looks like we've got ourselves a conversation here for Witzke as the pitching coach. Matt Myers in his very first season goes out to talk things over here with the starting pitcher. Of course, the head coach for Lipscomb, Jeff Forehand, 16th season. Boy, some mainstays here in the city of Nashville when it comes to college baseball. Whether it's Forehand, who was at trifecta before Lipscomb, of course, Coach Jarvis, and then our very own Tim Corbett. Conversation is brief here. Myers is back into that dugout, third base side. Lipscomb's the home team here tonight. Vandy first base side. So 2 balls, no strikes to Kolek. Here's the pitch. Fastball swung on and missed. Came at 93, elevated it. So 2 balls and 1 here to Tate. And a spin back to second base this time for Witzke. Runners at first and second. Not necessarily a bad weekend for Tate Kolek. Had 3 hits, including a double. 1 back on Saturday against South Carolina. Scored a run with that hit in the 5th inning. Here's the pitch. That is swung on and missed. Snap throw back to first. No tag by Williams. And Casas gets back in time. 2 balls, 2 strikes. But again with Tennessee, ranked unanimously, and that is hard to do, as the number 1 team in the country right now, coming to town on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. You would love guys like Tate Kolek, Dom Keegan, and the rest to be absolutely red hot going into that series. Called strike 3, outside corner. So again, Vanderbilt just kind of getting its feet wet here with the strike zone.
Number 2, Javier.
We've seen that a couple of times. Replay would make it look like it's a touch off the plate, but again, that call was made against Dom Keegan. It gets made here against Tate Kolek, so that's the strike zone of Mike Thomas. First pitch to Hoppy Faz. Breaking ball that goes inside. 1 ball, no strikes, down and in. Right versus left here. Hoppy Faz back in the lineup. 5'9", the senior from Huntsville, Alabama. Batting .281 here this season. Does have 2 home runs, including that grand slam against Hawaii a couple of weeks ago. The 1-0. Inside. Fastball that time at 93. 15 RBIs for Hoppy Faz. Did not start any of the games against South Carolina. Now part of it, for Hoppy, just the bat has cooled off. Faz does not have a base hit in his past 7 games. The pitch. That stays high. So 3 balls, no strikes. A chance for Vanderbilt to load the bases with Calvin Hewitt waiting on deck. The 3-0. Up and inside underneath the hands of Javi Vaz. Very good patience there as they try to bust him inside, and it would not budge for Javi Vaz. Our score 1-0 here in the top of the second inning. Bisons lead this game, a chance for Vanderbilt to tie it. Bases loaded. Just one down here in the top of the second inning. Base hit for Jack Bolger. He's down at third. Gavin Casas got on with the walk. Nearly roped a 2-run home run down the right field line that just curled foul. So it's Calvin Hewitt here with the bases loaded. His chance to push across the first run. First pitch. Takes a fastball off the plate and down. 1 ball, no strikes. "6'3", the sophomore batsman on the right side. The pitch. Outside, 2 balls, no strikes out of Greenland, New Hampshire. Just north of Portsmouth on the I-95 corridor. 7 for 11 so far this season. 1 home run, 3 RBIs, including a 2-run single against South Carolina back on Saturday. Here's the pitch. That one is swung on and fouled off. Count goes to 2-1. Another one of those multi-sports athletes. Played basketball back at high school. Time is called at the plate here by Maxwell. Bases loaded for Vanderbilt, top of the second inning. Bolger's at third, Casas at second, Vaz is at first. The pitch by Witzke. That one is swung on and flared foul. Count goes to 2-2. Well, talked with Coach Corbin a little bit about Calvin Hewitt back in the pregame conversation. Loves the way that Calvin Hewitt does a couple of things. One, just flat out runs. He competes in the outfield. Loves to run the bases. That's the athlete in Calvin Hewitt. And then specifically, over the past couple of games for Calvin, the fact that he's competed the way that he's competed at the plate. The 2-2. Swinging, grounds this one up the middle, and it's under the glove of the diving second baseman Stamps. Bolger will score. Here comes Casas, and Calvin Hewitt knocks that one through the middle. Scores 2. Vanderbilt takes a 2-1 advantage here at the top of the second inning. Hewitt's got 5 RBIs on the season. Javi Vaz goes first to third. Hewitt's down at first base. Again, that's kind of part of it, right? The fact that Calvin Hewitt has now scored 4 runs on a couple of singles each of the past 2 games. Neither one of them were rockets. He just has found a way to compete and put this ball in play and challenge the defense. Brings us to Carter Young. That's from the left side here. Witzke from the stretch. Runners at the corners. Hewitt goes. Swung on and missed. Pump fake by the catcher Maxwell. And Hewitt's down to second. I mean, if you have both Calvin Hewitt and Bradfield Jr. out in the outfield, it's hard to get a faster outfield likely in the country, maybe the SEC. Those 2 guys can fly. And the pitch goes inside here to Carter. So 1 ball, 1 strike. Runners at second and third. Vaz is down at third base. Hewitt's at second base. Vandy leads this game 2-1 now. New score. The 1-1. That is inside. Did it get him? You bet. So just grazed off, I think, the shoulder of Young. He goes down to first base. Bases loaded here again for Witzke. Nobody warming up down that left field line. So Bradfield to the plate, bases loaded. And Witzke, let's see, maybe 4 hands on his way out here to talk, and he will. So nobody was warming up, and they still are going to go to the bullpen here. So whoever had gotten hot took a seat and stayed that way. So bases loaded, new pitcher. on his way out of the bullpen here for Lipscomb. We'll step aside. Vanderbilt 2, Lipscomb 1 here in the top of the second inning. Bases loaded for Bradfield Jr. when we return across the Vanderbilt Sports Network from their field.
Wow, what a great game.
New vision for Vanderbilt Athletics. Learn more about the transformation process at VUCommodores.com. Now back to the booth and Andrew Allegretta.
Well, Vanderbilt Sports Medicine is proud to be the provider for your Commodores. They specialize in the evaluation and treatment of bone and joint injuries. Find your inner champion and get back to doing what you love. Visit VanderbiltOrthopedics.com to learn more. New pitcher here for Lipscomb in this top of the second. Again, bases loaded situation. And Bradfield Jr. to the plate is Caleb Cantola. 5.49 ERA, 23 strikeouts, 17 walks. He's thrown 19 2/3 so far for Lipscomb. 6'6", the sophomore from Oregon. A junior college transfer here for the Bisons. This team is loaded with transfers this season. They've got 23 new players, and 17 of them for Lipscomb are transfers. Handful of kids from Power 5 schools like Virginia or Duke, but also a good chunk of them from junior colleges, which is not uncommon in college baseball for what it's worth. Bases loaded here for Bradfield. Baz is at third, Hewitt's at second base, Young's at first. And from the stretch, first pitch to Bradfield. Breaking ball for a strike. 2-1 is our score. Vanderbilt has scored two. A two-run single by Calvin Hewitt brought across Jack Bulger and Gavin Casas a couple of seconds ago. Right versus left for Bradfield. And the pitch is on its way. Swung on and missed. Fastball at 93. It certainly seems like, whether it's just the radar gun here at First Horizon or by strategy for Coach Forehand, the fact that the first couple of guys that have thrown here tonight certainly have velocities in the mid to low 90s. The 0-2. Fastball swung on and flared right back. Fastball at 94. At least the guess here would be you've got a Vandy team that goes up against the SEC every single week and sees 94, 95. The only way you can challenge them was with somebody like that. And someone that sits 88, 89 is going to be much more manageable for Vanderbilt. We'll see where it goes throughout the course of the night. The 0-2. That swung on, popped straight back. Still just one down here in this top of the second inning. So Vaz down at third base could score in a handful of different ways. So Bradfield's just trying to put this one out into play. Either get the sacrifice fly, potentially challenge somebody. The infield is back, so at this point they're conceding a run or trying to spin two. And from the stretch, Cantola throws. Breaking ball crossed up the catcher. Javi Vaz is on his way home, and he dives in safely. Javi Vaz aggressive at third base as Maxwell just lost that one. A breaking ball, didn't know the pitch. It only got away about 5 or 6 feet, and Javi Vaz still came home. 3-1 the new score here in the second inning. Hewitt goes to third. Young trails behind to second base. So runners at second and third. And the threat stays on here for Vanderbilt in this top of the second inning. 3-1 is our score. Javi Vaz just breaks home on a pass ball on the catcher Maxwell. And the pitch. Swung on and foul tipped. 1 ball, 2 strikes still on Bradfield. 0 for 1. Struck out against Witzke back in the first. Bradfield settles back in. Runners at second and third here. Vanderbilt with that .333 batting average. Has 13 RBIs. Of course, as the leadoff hitter, kind of 50-50 whether or not he comes up with runners in scoring position. A chance here. The 1-2. Up and away, 2-2. Of course, Vanderbilt's lineup's a little bit different when you stack Carter Young at the bottom part of the order or Tate Colwick at the bottom part of the order. The 2-2 from Cantola. Breaking ball stays high. So 3 balls, 2 strikes now as Cantola steps off the mound a couple of seconds. Couple of steps from Calvin Hewitt down at third base. A 2-run single just a couple of seconds ago for the sophomore. The pitch. Inside, ball 4. This one gets away from Maxwell. Hewitt's going to score. No throw, no challenge there from Maxwell. As that one got all the way to the backstop, it's a walk on Bradfield, and Hewitt comes in on the passed ball. So 4-1 is the new score.
Now batting for the Commodores.
Young goes to third on the plate. Runners at the corners here for Vandy. Still with just 1 down here in the second inning. So Davis Diaz to the plate, the freshman from Pittsburgh, California. And a step off here by Caleb Cantola. Long battle there with Bradfield Jr., his very first batter. Eventually gets the walk. And 2 runners scored on a couple of passed balls. Pickoff move back to first. Maxwell has to jump. Williams down at first base has to jump. So Vandy has scored 4 here in this top of the second inning. Bolger has scored. Casas has scored. Javi Vaz has scored. Calvin Hewitt has scored. 2 of them on pass balls. And then 2 of them on the single by Hewitt. Another pickoff move back to Bradfield. Well, Lipscomb certainly would love the double play to stay in order when Davis Diaz potentially puts the ball into play in the infield. Nobody has hit into more double plays in the SEC than Vanderbilt. Of all of the things they've done well offensively throughout the course of this year, that's been an asterisk. The pitch. Bradfield takes off. There's the pump fake. It's a strike, no throw by Maxwell. Runners at second and third.
That stolen base was brought to you by Screwball Peanut Butter Whiskey. Don't be a chaser, be the one.
I'm not sure that head coach Tim Corbin is necessarily the type of coach to quote-unquote send a message. However, coming off the 2 losses against South Carolina, you would think he wants to be emphatic here tonight. The pitch. That one is swung on, lifted to shallow right field. The first baseman, Williams, goes over and makes the catch. There's a bluff down at third base by Carter Young, but does not go. That certainly goes down as a missed opportunity for Davis Diaz. So there's 2 outs, runners at second and third. A P3 for Davis Diaz, and there's 2 outs. Dom Keegan 0 for 1, a strikeout. Still batting .425 home runs. 25 RBIs. Has Bradfield down at second base. Carter Young is at third. And the senior settles in. Right versus right with Cantola. Here's the pitch. Breaking ball outside. 1 ball, no strikes. That's certainly the scouting report on Dom Keegan. He's done a good job with it throughout the course of this year and his career in general, but that's the scouting report. Try to get him to chase on breaking balls down and out of the zone. The 1-0. Dom takes and it's knocked down by Maxwell. So 2 balls, no strikes. Another off-speed pitch that time by Cantola. Lights are on here at First Horizon as the sun continues to set down that right field side. The 2-0. Dom takes, and it's 3-0. Well, kind of like we told you throughout the course of the weekend down in Columbia, how you could really see the sun kind of shine off the glass buildings there in South Carolina. You can see that here tonight. Not just off the buildings, but it is Nashville. Off the buildings being built, off to the construction down the right field line. The 3-0. There's a strike with the fastball, 3-1. I guess in fairness to Nashville, this particular view only has one, what you would assume, condo building going up. Only one high-rise that you can see. Having said that, I can scope out a second crane that's obstructed by another building. The 3-1. Dom takes, and it's ball 4. Bases loaded here. Well, Vanderbilt has scored 4, top of the second.
Now batting for the Commodores, number 16.
They have put 6 different base runners, excuse me, 7 different base runners on. They have 2 hits in this inning. So Young's at third base, Bradfield is down at second, Keegan is at first base. And back to Jack Bolger, who started off this inning with a single right back up the middle. And the pitch. Bolger takes, breaking ball outside. Do absolutely love this ballpark, though. The Sounds did a wonderful job with the build here. And it looks like Jeff Forehand is going to go and grab Cantola here. The second. First pitch goes outside with the breaking ball. So 2 balls, no strikes. The always difficult situation. You don't see it a ton, but every now and then a bullpen arm comes out of the pen. 1 ball, no strikes. 2 balls, no strikes. The pitch. That one is swung on. That one is drilled. That one is on its way back toward the warning track. Boy, Jack Bolger, it sounded off the bat. It sounded with the jog for Jack Bolger that one was going to have some juice. And just at the warning track, you could see it start to slow. Catch is made by Coppage. Boy, thought we had our second Jack Bolger home run at First Horizon Park in as many games. Instead, that is out number 3. Vanderbilt scores 4. We'll go bottom 2. Devin Futrell back to the mound when we return after this across the Vanderbilt Sports Network from Learfield.
What makes Disc Insider the...
Well, check out the Commodore Hour every Monday night from 6 to 7 p.m. on ESPN 94.9 and streaming on the VU Commodores app and starting next Monday. Back in person at the Commodore Grill. Back in person, Commodore Grill. Right there on Wednesday. Head coach Tim Corbin out there from 6 to 6:30. We'll have a special guest from 6:30 to 7. I'll be there. Kevin Ingram will be there. We're looking forward to it. Again, bringing that back in person, where it's been for quite some time, out at the Commodore Grill. So, Devin Futrell, readies and throws. First pitch, it's swung on, lifted left side, and it's fouled just over the glove of Davis Diaz, and fouled down that left field line by Trace Wilhoit. 6'3", the freshman from Georgetown, Kentucky. Batting .247, 3 home runs, 11 RBIs, left versus right here with Futrell. Well, Lipscomb so far this season, 12-12, 1-5 in the A-Sun. That's 4th in their division. They do have a couple of notable games throughout the course of the season so far. And the pitch on its way. That one is swung on, lifted, foul. Most specifically, got a 6-2 win over Louisville just last week. Malik Williams, the first baseman for the Bisons, was fantastic. Went 2 for 4 in that game. 3-run home run and 4 RBIs. The pitch, that's swung on, fouled straight back and off the press box. So, no balls, 2 strikes here on Wilhoit. 6, 7, 8, part of the order here for Lipscomb. Our score 4-1 Vanderbilt in this bottom of the second inning. Couple of notable losses too. That pitch, it's a changeup that goes down. 1 ball, 2 strikes. They were swept by Georgia, outscored in that weekend 26-10. And look, Georgia's a really good club. The 1-2. Breaking ball misses low. Count goes to 2-2. So maybe not a shock there. They did lose a series against Central Arkansas, shutout on Friday 2-0, and shutout on Saturday 6-0. That's probably the most surprising results. That one is swung on, lifted down the right field line. Javi Vaz is on his way. He is called off by Tate Kolwick, who dives and makes the catch. His midsection goes right into the railing, and he got it. Tate Kolwick all smiles as he comes off that railing there. That had to sting. His midsection right into the railing. Down the right field line, Tate Kolwick sells out and takes away a tremendous opportunity there. What a diving play. So that was in foul territory down the right field line. Off the bat of Will Hoyt, and it's a P4. First pitch, Ethan Stamps is a strike. No balls, 1 strike here on Stamps, the second baseman. 5'9", a sophomore from Madison, Georgia. Swing and a miss. Quickly 0-2 here on Stamps. No balls, 2 strikes, and Futrell throws. Swung on, foul tip, but caught by Balter. There's the strikeouts. First strikeout of the ball game here for Futrell. And there's 2 outs here in this bottom of the second inning. Still keeping tabs on Tate Kolwick because his midsection went right into that railing, which is only about waist high. And he went head first into the seats. Here's Tiger Bora. That one is swung on, gloved right up the middle by Futrell. Races off to first. It's a 1-3 right versus left first pitch. Casas takes a strike outside corner. Well, lights are on here at First Horizon Park. Wind blows out a little bit to left field. Decent crowd in attendance here this afternoon, going toward early evening. The 0-1. Swung on and missed by Casas. Quickly 0-2. Here on Patrick Williams, his 6.48 ERA. 8 1/3 so far. 8 strikeouts, 4 walks. Middle part of the order here for Vanderbilt as that fastball misses low. 5, 6, 7. Casas, Kolwick, and Javi Vaz. Vandy leads this one 4-1, trying to bounce back after losing back-to-back games against South Carolina, which of course snapped that 18-game winning streak. Breaking ball inside, and it clips Gavin Casas. So hit by pitch, and he's on his way down to first.
Now batting for the Commodores, number 6, Tate.
As Tate Kolwick stands in, let's pause 10 seconds for station identification. Oh for 1 so far for Tates. He shows bunt, lays it right back down to the pitcher Williams, who scoops and throws. 1-3 on the sacrifice bunts. So, good job by Tate Kolwick. Lays that down. Casas goes to second.
Now batting for the Commodores, number 2, Javier Vaz.
Here's Javi Vaz, the right fielder. Good to see him back in the lineup. Again, just a pinch hitter over the weekend against South Carolina. Not a health thing for Javi, he's fine. Really just a performance-based thing. And certainly he's got all of the skill set in the world to be quite a contributor to this team. Just recently his bat has cooled off. Has not collected a hit in his last 7 games. Now he did walk back in the second. First pitch goes up and away. 1 ball, no strikes. And we've documented his story many a times on these broadcasts. Of course, a junior college transfer from LSU Eunice, where he played for his father, but has always wanted to be a Vandy boy. There's a bunt third base side. It just bounces foul for Javi. 1 ball, 1 strike. Wanted to be a Vandy boy out of high school. Not the right fit, not the right time. Both, as Coach Corbin has said, academically and athletically, but gets the unbelievable opportunity to play for LSU Eunice, which baseball circles understand what sort of program that one is. The 1-1. Swung on and missed. 1 ball, 2 strikes. Javi's dad was an assistant coach down at LSU Eunice. But when Jay Johnson was hired as the new head coach taking over for Paul Maneri at LSU, there was plenty of people that thought the head coach at LSU Eunice should get that job. He's been that good. That one is swung on and poked foul. Regardless, just stayed in contact with Coach Corbin, did Javi, and eventually found his spot. All of this is to say, if Javi's bat cools off for a little bit, he's going to stick with it. The 1-2. Just misses high. Gutsy take there by Javi Vaz with Casas down at second base. 4-1 is our score, top of the third. As that bright and big guitar scoreboard beyond the right field fence continues to take more of a prominent role in the skyline. That one is swung on and popped up. This is left side of the infield. Should be playable here for Ketchup, the shortstop. He reaches and gloves. So there's 2 outs here in the third. And it brings us to Calvin Hewitt.
Number 21, Calvin Hewitt.
1 for 1. 2-run single back in the second inning. A sophomore from Greenland, New Hampshire. As Coach Corbin will note, of course, not a ton of great baseball players from the Granite States. As the license plates say, live free or die. But a couple of them, Carlton Fisk, of course, chief among them, breaking ball for a strike. We'll see what sort of product Calvin Hewitt can develop into throughout the course of his Vanderbilt career. Another one of those guys that traveled out not on the roster, but traveled out on his own dime to Omaha last year to follow his teammates. Breaking ball for a strike outside corner, quickly 0-2. Here with 2 outs, Patrick Williams on the mound, right versus right. The 0-2 swung on and missed. The Lee Company landing. They'll make a donation to Middle Tennessee Youth Baseball, including the Bellevue Sport Athletic Association in Nashville. Fingers crossed, plenty of those this weekend against Tennessee. Hawkins Field is going to be slammed this weekend. We're looking forward to it. Caleb Ketchup, the shortstop. David Coppage, left fielder. Maddox Houghton, the center fielder. First pitch is a hit by pitch here on Caleb Ketchup, the transfer from Georgia. So very quickly here for Futrell. Runner down at first base. Well, I was just blown away talking with head coach Tim Corbin earlier today. And look, he's Tim Corbin. He's a 2-time national championship coach. He's well connected. But I did ask him about the late and legendary Don Meyer, 1986 NAIA national championship basketball coach at Lipscomb. Went on to become, for a moment in time, breaking ball goes inside here to David Coppage. Of course, the all-time winningest coach across all ranks of college basketball, passing Bobby Knight. He was eventually passed by Coach Krzyzewski. The 1-0. There's a strike inside corner. Ask mildly mundane questions to Tim Corbin at your own risk, because that triggered a conversation about how Tim Corbin was in attendance, and I guess he said on the bench, when Don Meyer, with Northern State in South Dakota, won his 903rd game. That one is swung on, grounded foul. Nice play by forehand, the head coach at third base in that coach's box. Nice job there. Again, he's Tim Corbin. He's going to be plenty of places. But Coach Meyer and Coach Corbin first started to develop their friendship, according to Coach Corbin, back in about 2004, right as Vanderbilt started to get the wheels in motion with this program. Swung on and missed. There's a strikeout. Second strikeout of the ball game here for Devin Futrell. And there's one down. So David Coppedge back to the dugout. Here's Maddox Houghton. And as Coach Corbin told it earlier today in our pregame interview, he said about 2004, he just got a phone call out of the blue. It said, "This is Coach Meyer. How'd you do it?" That's it. How did you get Vanderbilt going? First pitch. That goes inside. 1 ball, no strikes. And through all of that, Coach Corbin, of course, is maniacally focused on coaching grades. Looks like we've got ourselves potentially a ball that got away from the bullpen, as Davis Diaz, the third baseman, scoops it up and throws it back. So Coach Corbin knew Don Meyer. And it's hard to be in Nashville and not eventually know that name. Pickoff move back to first base, but they continued to develop their relationship to the point that when Don Meyer was getting close, I guess he invited Coach Corbin out there, and they spent time together on that day at a coaching clinic after the ball game. 1 ball, no strikes, and the pitch. That goes up and away. 2 balls, no strikes. And totally irrelevant to the story, but noteworthy, according to Coach Corbin, after Don Meyer won his 903rd game, he celebrated with a ham sandwich. There's a fastball that goes down. Runner takes off, throw down to second base, not in time by Bolger, and a stolen base. I hope I don't go back and find out that all of these little anecdotes, he was just messing around with me. But I don't think so. More research to be done. But this is the story that I got from Coach Corbin earlier today. I'm not doubting him. It's just, look, it's been 15 years. Details come and go. There's a strike outside corner. 3 balls, 1 strike here on Maddox Houghton. Our score 4-1. Vanderbilt leads by 3. But if there was ever a truest example of the largeness of Coach Corbin Ball 4 in every way that he has intertwined himself, not to just Nashville, not to just college baseball, but American sport in general. That one knocked me off my feet. I expected him to know Don Meyer, have a relationship with Don Meyer, be close with before his passing in 2014. But to be invited out and be in the building and, relatively speaking, on the bench as it all unfolded, even that one caught me by surprise. Here's Lundgren. Left versus left, runners at first and second here for the Bisons. Breaking ball misses outside. Leadoff hit by pitch to Caleb Ketchup. A strikeout of Coppedge and a walk to Houghton. Runners at first and second. 1 down here in this bottom of the 3rd inning. Vanderbilt 4-1. And the pitch. Swung on and missed. And the bat goes flying from the hands of Lundgren. A sophomore from Kansas. That one goes close to Coach Corbin, who grabs it and walks it right back out to him. A couple of words back and forth between those two, I'm sure. Mostly joking. Or, if nothing else, if you need some pine tar, I'll help you out. So, Lundgren goes and grabs the pine tar from the Lipscomb dugouts, and he makes his way back to the plate here. Couple of smiles there between Jack Bolger and Lundgren as he stands back in. A small joke cracked, and here we go. Runners at first and second for Lipscomb. And the pitch. Settles in the zone with a changeup for a strike. 1 ball, 2 strikes. Well, this is the 3 spot in the order for the Bisons. No home runs so far this season for Lundgren. But he does represent the tying run. Futile from the stretch. And a spin back to second base. And for what it's worth, the hole, he has not hit a home run so far this season. Did not matter in the slightest to Braylon Wimmer. No home runs for South Carolina going into the Saturday game. He hit 2. The 1-2. Misses low. Knocked down by Bulger. Keeps it in front of him. And keeps Ketchup down at second base. Malik Williams waits on deck. If you're Devin Futrell, you are trying to get to that guy with another out on the board. Swung on and missed, and does just that. Futrell gets his 3rd strikeout here. Swing and a miss on Mason Lundgren. 2 down.
Now batting for the Bison, number 44, Malik Williams.
So the first baseman, a senior from Toronto, undoubtedly the best hitter in this Lipscomb lineup throughout the course of 2022. .352 batting average, has 5 home runs, 27 RBIs. And the pitch. Misses low. 1 ball, no strikes. Certainly hope you can join us in some capacity. Whether it's on the air, whether it's on the television broadcast, or if you're among the lucky 3,000 or 4,000 with season tickets at the Hawk in person this weekend. That one is swung on, ground to left side. Playable for Carter, flips off to Kolwick at second, and that will do it. Once again, coming up this weekend, it is
Carter Young.
Top of the order for Bradfield Jr. 0 for 1 so far, did reach with the walk back in the second. Shows bunt, pulls back. 1 ball, no strikes. Schimpers the pitcher, 7.71 ERA. 5 strikeouts, 11 walks so far. Has only worked 7 innings so far this season. The 1-0. That goes outside, skips in the dirt. So 2 balls, no strikes. Bradfield's at the plates. Had a stolen base back in the second inning. His 15th of the season, first place in the conference. The 2-0. That goes outside 3-0. I think I did notice for Bradfield, since the start of SEC play, it's been just 1 stolen base, so this is the second, getting him. And look, some of its opportunities, right?
Absolutely.
Here's the 3-0. That goes inside ball 4. But getting those wheels spinning. And not to say, look, it's sort of like the expectations are so unfair. He gets on first, we expect him to be at third in 2 pitches. But getting his wheels spinning on a constant basis, that'll be a good thing for the offense as well.
And as the competition continues to get tougher and tougher as you go, you get many times fewer opportunities and face pitchers that are quicker to the plate, catchers that get it down to second a lot faster. So just finding ways to get on base and at least give yourself those opportunities, they're not a given.
Pickoff move back to first, no tag by Williams. And Diaz is at the plate, 0 for 2. Well, we've noted a couple of times the thing about Diaz that's been great over the past week or so. Brooks, the fact that his batting average has cooled off some, that's unfortunate, but his on-base percentage has stayed high. He has still gotten on base and been productive for Vanderbilt, despite the fact that he's not ripping off 3 for 5 games consistently, which is, again, unrealistic.
Well, and you and I have talked about that a lot since he really entered the starting lineup, week 2, before he was having the hits that seemed to come in bunches, 2 and 3 a game, was just the quality of the at-bats and the control of the strike zone even early on before the results were coming. And then the results came as a function of those quality at-bats, and he has continued to do that, even though that average has dropped down a few points. But as we know, right, average is not everything, especially in college baseball. It's about winning at-bats and not coming up there and leaving with an empty result sometimes that does affect your average, and it may affect your average over a couple of games. But if you can put those together, especially in college baseball, when you have amateurs that are playing defense,
yes,
you always want to put the ball in play. It doesn't matter if you're the number one team in the country or unranked, that wins in most cases.
And for what it's worth, his batting average is still 364. It's still just fine. It feels like that Moneyball scene where it's like his batting average is X, Y, and Z, but he gets on base.
That's pretty good.
That goes outside. It may have been discussed in the press box before the game, so it's a little fresh in my brain.
Okay.
I will say this, my fun fact of the night is the actor who played Chad Bradford in that movie played at Lipscomb. He's a Lipscomb Bison. Casey Bond was drafted, I think, in the 25th rounds by the San Francisco Giants, maybe 2007 or 2008. And the pitch goes up and away, snap thrown out of first, and Bradfield is safe.
And do you
3
know
balls, no strikes.
Do you know where Casey Bond played baseball before he played at Lipscomb?
Yes, I do. He played at Birmingham Southern. I sure do.
There it is.
Yeah.
Always have to drop in an obligatory Birmingham Southern College baseball reference anytime I can.
Champions. Always. There's a strike inside corner, 3-1.
And you know, the other thing about Diaz, too, is that for a young kid, a lot of times when you do have a couple of games or several at-bats in a row that maybe don't lead to the results you want, you can take it out to the field. And he's just continued to play fantastic defense, too, over at third base.
Pickoff move back to first base, and Bradfield is safe once again. And very methodical here tonight, Brooks, for the Bisons when they've been on defense. Again, a function of the speed and the pressure that Vanderbilt's offense puts on you. Also, I think, trying to stall a bit for some arms to get loose down the line. Here's the pitch. Bradfield takes off. It's up and away. So a stolen base is wiped out there for Bradfield, but Davis Diaz does pick up the walk. Runners at first and second. One down here in this fourth inning. Vandy 4-1.
Number 12, Dominic Keegan.
Would have had that bag easily stolen, but that one was nowhere near the strike zone. And kind of an interesting game here tonight. Only 2 hits for Vanderbilt, 1 for Lipscomb, but man, we've seen a ton of base runners on both sides, it seems like, and a lot of free bases. I know both of these teams. Timing pick there. I have to be thinking that 2 good runners on base, Bradfield being the lead runner. Action is probably inevitable at some point there in this count, but at the same time, you got a really good hitter in Dominic Keegan at the plate.
And the pitch. Off the plate. 1 ball, no strikes. I could not tell, Brooks, if that first pickoff by Legree was truly intentional or if something he kind of came to as his knee came up and started to notice Bradfield. I could not quite put that together. Another spin back to second base. That one was certainly intentional.
It seemed like kind of a wide angle turn of an inside move. It was almost like at the very last second before that lead leg went down. He had some intuition that there's a pretty good runner on second base. I might want to give him a look.
1-0. There's a strike inside corner. 86. Legree does have a noticeable 3/4 delivery, if not sidearm. Not all the way, but certainly 3/4 for sure.
And pretty close, and you can see the arm side run that fastball has, even though it's not lighting up the radar gun. There's a lot of life to that pitch.
The 1-1. Bradfield takes off. It's a check swing. They throw behind. They go to second. Diaz is safe. And certainly Bradfield safe down at third. 1 ball, 2 strikes here on Dom after the strike, but 2 in scoring position with 1 down.
Not a hit and run just based on the swing I think you saw there from Keegan, but Bradfield really never stopped his feet on his secondary lead, which enabled him to get a good jump, and Diaz was perfectly synced up with him as well to get in ahead of that throw.
1-2 breaking ball is outside. 2-2. That just floats in there at 74.
About a 10-mile-per-hour difference between the fastball, which is moving in to the right-hander and kind of more slurvy pitch that's moving away.
That goes outside. Again, the same slurvy type pitch that time for Legree. 3 balls, 2 strikes. Infield does come in with 1 out. 4-1 is our score, top of the 4th inning. Certainly Vanderbilt feels in control, so to speak, here in the 4th, but it's still within 1 swing for the Bisons. The pitch. That one is swung on, hit out to right center field. This one is drifting. It is back, and it is caught by Boren. Out in right field, it's a sacrifice fly as Bradfield scores to make it 5-1. Not sure if that was going to hang up long enough for Boren to get underneath it, if it would carry toward the gap. Ultimately, a sacrifice fly for Keegan, and he gets his 26th RBI of the season.
Now batting for the Commodores, number 6.
Just kind of an inside-out swing, and got as much strength as Keegan does. He really just kept those hands inside and was able to do a job and move a runner, score a runner, and thought for a second that one had a chance to get in the gap, but it really just tailed back towards Borum in right field.
Bulger's at the plate, first pitch, up and away. 1 ball, no strikes. I was thinking the same thing too. I thought maybe that's going to get in the gap, and it just never did.
Got some funky wind here tonight. It's kicked a few different directions, but saw that last weekend against Belmont. It's been windy pretty much everywhere on the East Coast these last couple of weeks.
Snap throw down to third. I think they got him. They sure did. Punched out. Davis Diaz gets punched out down at third by Birkin. And I hope he's okay, too. A little bit slow to pop to his feet. There's your third and final outs. Coach Corbin is right there with Davis Diaz as he tries to shake that one off. It looks like ultimately okay here for Diaz. Really good snap from, not sure where that tag, did the tag get him on the helmet? Is that why?
Hard to tell on that replay.
Yeah.
Immediately, that was my gut, was maybe the tag just caught him right in the face. But it looks like he's okay enough to stay in the game right now. But a nice throw from Maxwell. I don't see that a ton, but just caught Diaz a little flat-footed down there at third.
The Missouri game at Hawkins Field. Check out her music wherever you stream music. First pitch swinging of this bottom of the 4th inning. It's hammered foul by Maxwell. The catcher here for Lipscomb down that left field line. 5-1 is our score here in this bottom of the 4th inning. Andrew Allegretti here in the booth alongside baseball chief of staff Brooks Webb. Futrell continues, and the lefty throws. That is swung on and chopped foul. Jeff past the head coach of Lipscomb, forehand down that third base line. No balls, 2 strikes on Maxwell. 309 batting average for the catcher. Futrell's at 270 with his ERA. 5, 6, and 7 for the Bisons. That is swung on and missed, and Futrell gets the strikeouts. His 4th strikeout of the ball game. Good start to this 4th inning here for the freshman from just outside of Miami.
Now batting for the Bison.
That's the pitch that he didn't seem to have working. Maybe the first time through the order was that changeup, but it can be a devastating offering to right-handers.
First pitch in the zone for a strike against Will Hoyt.
You see it again right there. I think that's something that you're a left-handed pitcher and you can locate a changeup not only for a first pitch strike, but also for a strikeout pitch. You can be very dangerous.
That one goes out of the zone. 1 ball, 1 strike. Here's a question for you, Brooks. We've seen a couple of times throughout the course of, I guess, the season with Futrell. He does change up his delivery some. Here's the pitch. That one is swung on, bounced toward the left side. Futrell grabs. He throws to first base. There's the stretch, and Keegan's got it. The athleticism of Devin Futrell comes off the mound, heads toward third, grabs, plants, and throws a strike to Keegan. 2 outs here in the 4th inning.
That is an extremely tough play, whether you're a right-handed or a left-handed pitcher. He did have the benefit of running towards it on his glove side, so he was able to get onto his back leg a little bit quicker. They actually chose to not do that and just kind of jump throw, if you will, like you see a shortstop do in the 5-6 hole. That's a fantastic play from Futrell.
First pitch, it's a strike, but just like there was a slight pause before he delivers. I know pitchers mix up their delivery and all of that sort of stuff. The thought process as Futrell throws, that one is swung out of bounds to foul. About his specific, not to give anything away, I guess, but his specific changes in delivery and how that helps him.
Well, I think you've seen that across, Major League Baseball, and it's gotten to college baseball in the last several years, is just the timing and the rhythm of a hitter. I mean, that's all you're trying to do with changes in velocity. So anything else that you can throw into disrupting the timing of a hitter, a pitcher's going to try to do it as long as they can still control their stuff.
1-2. Swung on, hit hard to center field. This should be playable here for Bradfield. Drifts off towards right center field, medium depth, and makes the catch. Well, maybe the best inning so far here for Devin Futrell. Did go 1-2-3 back in the second, but does that again here in the fourth inning. Vanderbilt 5-1. We go top 5 from First Horizon in gorgeous downtown Nashville. Back in a couple of seconds after this. Here Vanderbilt has Jack Bulger at the plate. Legree continues for Lipscomb. First pitch. And it's a bunt laid down third base side, and it bounces foul. Bulger 1 for 2 here tonight. A single back in the second, scored a run. And then hit what I thought. I really did. I thought it was going to be a grand slam. Perhaps it was just the swing. Perhaps it was just the ping. It was, at least it looked well struck. It just hung up there, and the catch was made out in left field back in the second.
It was all of those things. It was a great barrel, but park on this night, with the way this wind is blowing, not going to happen.
That one is swung on and bounced fair, scooped up by Will Hoyt, throws to first. Good stretch by Williams, 5-3. On the charge by Will Hoyt. Nice play there by the third baseman for the Bisons.
Almost what Jack was trying to do there with the bunt attempt on the first pitch, but not the outcome he necessarily intended for.
Brings us to Gavin Casas, the DH, 6'3", the sophomore. Hit on base twice here tonight. Walked back in the second, scored a run. Scored down that 2-run base hit by Calvin Hewitt, plus hit by pitch back in the third. First pitch, he takes outside. 1 ball, no strikes. On the stretch here for Legree. And the pitch. Off the plate. 2 balls, no strikes. Will Hoyt, the third baseman, catch-ups the shortstop. Stamps is the second baseman, Williams at first. The 2-0. That one is swung on, hit hard, right field side, and it's through for a base hit here for Gavin Casas. Good contact there for the DH tonight, and he's on base for the third time.
You saw those fastballs away.
Now batting for the Capitals.
First 2 pitches, and then that one, once you get ahead in the count, certainly looking for something middle in, and probably started on the inside of Gavin's hip and just ran right over the middle of the plate. Didn't try to do too much, and finds himself on base again here tonight.
Let's see what Tate Colwick can do. That pitch runs outside. 1 ball, no strikes. Just a sparkling play down that right field line defensively earlier here tonight. Boy, his midsection hit right up against the railing, and he went into the first row, still made the play. That one is swung on and lifted foul. Kind of came out of nowhere, I guess to me. My eyeballs were on Javi Vaz. And then Tate Colwick came out of nowhere, made the play. Great defensive grab earlier here tonight by the second baseman for the Doors.
He'll probably be a little bit sore tomorrow, but you're right. The closing speed, once he saw he was going to have a chance to secure that baseball, to give up his body like that, it's a great play.
Ground ball up the middle. It is bobbled and dropped by Stamps. It is picked up. There's the tag at second. Throw to first, not in time. So Casas is out down at second base. That goes off the glove of Stamps. It was picked up by Ketchup. He tagged the bag at second.
Now batting for the
Just a little bit tardy there on Colwick at first base.
Yeah, fortunate bounce off of Stamps' body, but on the flip side, that was a potential double play ball if he was able to secure it, because it was taking him right to the second base bag. So I think we'll call that one even.
Javi Vaz to the plate here. Let's play coach for a second. Look, so much has gone well for Vanderbilt offensively. Their second batting average in the conference. There have been plenty of things that have driven this offense in a positive direction. Pick up, move back to first. If you go through the statistics, the one thing that does jump out to you is the fact that Vandy has grounded into more double plays than anybody in the conference. Is that just the way the ball has bounced so far? Is that something that they can think about and be mindful of moving forward? That pitch is off the plate. 1 ball, no strikes.
It's an interesting question, most certainly. I think based on the way the offense is pretty balanced, right? You've got some guys who can drive the ball in the gaps, drive the ball out of the yard, that can lay down bunts and kind of play the small ball game. I think to some degree probably does have to do with the way the ball has bounced, because I think for every double play you can say they've hit into, you can think of several that they've been able to stay out of just based on putting themselves into good positions by stealing bases ahead of plays that take the double play out of order, or beating the force, which we've seen a few times in some of these Vanderbilt big innings over the course of the year.
Breaking ball grabs the outside part of the plate. Here against Javi Vaz, 1 ball, 2 strikes, 2 outs. Yeah, I don't know. Some of it, my brain goes to the fact that the spray charts, and I guess it's early, but with some of the upperclassmen, the spray charts are so advanced that the positioning is remarkably good. Like the positioning there for Stamps on Tate Kolwick was flawless. I mean, he could have rolled it to Stamps where he was playing. So you credit the defense to an extent there. I don't know how you say, as the pitch goes outside 2-2, hey, don't hit into a double play. That feels easy to say, harder to execute.
Well, I think you credit the defense, but you also have to credit the pitch execution that plays into the defense.
Sure.
Because a good shift and a poorly executed pitch does nothing
right.
at all. And I think that's the biggest thing when you play elite teams and when you've got all this data, is it makes it easier to potentially put yourself into situations that when you look at a defensive alignment, it doesn't add up. But what the fans are looking at, or what you're seeing on TV, is not the hundreds of at-bats that you may have on a guy like Tate Kolwick, or any hitter that's been a 3, 4, or even 5-year guy in the SEC, or really any conference that you can get those metrics on.
Which at this point is most of them.
Yeah, all of them. I mean, I think Synergy and the different charting systems that are out there, you can get data, from Division I all the way down to junior college on what you need, especially from a defensive standpoint.
Another pickoff back to first.
It's a pitching coach's dream, right? Until a hitter hits through the shift.
That's right. Most places, I would think, at this point have TrackMan. Not everybody, but I would think a good chunk, especially Power 5. 2-2 is off the plate, 3-2. So there's just an avalanche of data. Yeah, I think I kind of chalk it up to just circumstances, at least so far. But for a team that is being mindful of the fact that you get runners at first and third with 1 out, and then you don't score, things like reducing the number of double plays is part of it, somehow. That one is swung on and popped out to shallow left field. Here comes Coppage racing in and makes the catch. This is not Pierogies, not the Presidents. That one is swung on and cracked to center field. That is Bradfield making the catch off the bat of Boren. And there's 1 out here in the bottom of the 5th inning. Vanderbilt 5-1 over Lipscomb.
MLB.com, Simon takes down Racing Sausage, July 9th, 2003.
Caleb Ketchup.
What are the different sausages?
I've got no idea. I guess now you've got veggie sausage, beef sausage, pork sausage, chicken sausage.
Okay.
There you go. So
All right.
Probably the 4 right there.
Strike outside corner. Speaking of, at the plate, Caleb Ketchup. That is swung on, lifted, left side of the infield. And Davis Diaz makes the catch. Well, Devin Futrello's done a nice job. About 53 pitches so far tonight, 4 1/3. Actually 4 2/3 now. 1 hit, 1 run, 4 strikeouts, 2 runs. Did give up that 1 double to start things off in the first, but since that first inning, only 2 base runners out there for the Bisons. A walk and a hit by pitch.
And that's the key, right? Once you get into the 4th and the 5th inning, you kind of have an idea of what pitches are working for you and what you can start to tap into. But you also have in the back of your head that early contact is going to get me deeper into this game, and to be able to locate an off-speed pitch like you just did to catch up and get first pitch contact. That's exactly what you want if you're pitching Coach Scott Brown.
That is swung on by Kopich out to right center field. Bradfield's on the move. He glides toward the gap and he makes the play. Nice job by Rick.
Batting for the Commodores.
Like the idea there for sure to try to get the new pitcher Giles just to probably not suspect a first pitch bunt. Catch him napping a little bit, hoping he's falling off to that first base side and lay a bunt down on the opposite side, but that one just right back to him.
Brings us to Carter. And the pitch. Breaking ball down. 1 ball, no strikes. 9 2/3 so far for Chandler Giles. 13 strikeouts, 7 walks, 7.45 is the Californians' ERA. The 1-0. Ball 2, 2-0. 0 for 1 so far for Carter, hit by a pitch back in the second. The 2-0. Misses inside 3-0. Four home runs so far this season for Carter Young. 18 RBIs. And the pitch. Inside ball 4. So back to the top of the order for Bradfield Jr. Been on base twice, a couple of walks. Vandy still just has 3 hits in this ball game. Bolger's got a base hit, Hewitt's got a base hit, and so does Gavin Casas.
And they haven't really come in situations with runners on base other than Cal's 2 RBI single, which was a good piece of 2-strike hitting. But you're right, taking advantage of some Lipscomb mistakes here to put runs on the board.
First pitch to Bradfield goes out of the zone, 1 ball, no strikes.
It can be tough, these Tuesday games when you're facing so many arms and timing gets thrown off and you're seeing righties, you're seeing lefties, you're seeing a bunch of different arm angles. It can be tough to kind of isolate hits in bunches, but at the very same time, it's no different than a starter getting run on the weekend and it turning into a bullpen game that way too. So you just have to make quick adjustments, have a nice plan, don't really change who you are, and just try to be very directional with the baseball and go with where it's pitched.
2 balls, no strikes here on Bradfield. And the pitch by Giles. Inside ball 3. I would suspect and be surprised if this wasn't the case, but for Coach Baxter and the rest of the offensive staff as they got ready for this one and put together whatever notes that they carry into ball games, if it wasn't highlighted. 141 walks allowed by Lipscomb's pitching staff. That is last place in the ASUN, 141. So if nothing else, you come into the ball game and know, be selective. Don't rush, take your time. Be selective, understand the strike zone.
There's no question. I think you can look at not just characteristics of pitching staffs, but also offenses, and you look for things that jump off the page, and you even look at things in reverse, where if it's a guy that doesn't walk a lot of people, you're thinking, okay, he's going to be around the strike zone, so we need to take the aggression to him. So it can apply in a lot of different ways without all the metrics. When you're just simply looking at the stats, a lot of times they can tell you more of a story than you may think.
The 3-0. Up and away, ball 4. So Young goes down to second. Bradfield walks for the third side. I think a lot of teams have done that to Vanderbilt, right? You've got McElvain that's around the strike zone. You've got Carter Holton that's around the strike zone. Most of the pitchers for Vanderbilt, for better or for worse, are around the strike zone. You've got teams fastball hunting on the first pitch.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think those are things when you talk about teams across the league, and you're going to see it this weekend from both Tennessee and Vanderbilt. When you pick up your TV remote and flip on those games, you're going to see some premium velocity and a lot of strike throwing from either side, and I know there will be a lot of prep.
Another step off here.
I think maybe have some kind of miscommunication on signs. It's usually the body language you see from a pitcher when he does that and looks back at his catcher. May have been a called for pick, might have had some kind of timing pick on, but somebody wasn't on the same page.
The 1-0. Fastball for a strike. 1 ball, 1 strike. I'm actively not attempting to steal signs. I've just not seen this before. It does look like, are they giving signs off of I guess it looks like a score clock or something like that. I've not seen that one before.
Yeah, I think that corresponds just with the wristband, with the pitch type or possibly the picks, first and third defense. You can put a whole host of things on those cards, and that's a balk unless he stepped off. I guess
they said he stepped off.
I was looking at the first baseman darting behind him, not so much at the pitcher. We got a good crew here tonight, so he definitely stepped off. They didn't call a balk.
The 1-1. That's swung on, hit to center field, fairly well struck by Diaz, but it's playable here for Lipscomb out in center field. The catch is made by Houghton. Does Chuck Pack live in Nashville? I feel like we've had Chuck Pack for at least 75% of the ball games.
I don't know where Chuck Pack lives, but we have had him in Nashville for several games this year.
So 2 outs for Dom Keegan, runners at first and second. Cheatwood from the stretch, and the pitch. That one is swung on, hit hard to right center field. This one's got some carry for Keegan. It's at the wall, and it is caught. Borum out in right field makes the play.
That's just 2 balls tonight that Dom has hit on the screws the other direction, and again, opportunity gets a run through the Vanderbilt athletic facilities, including around the turf of Hawkins Field. That's part of the route, so be a lot of fun, and I know we're getting pretty close to sold out, so if you haven't already, go ahead and sign up.
That's cracked here by Lundgren, and it goes foul. Left field side back toward the seats.
Have you signed up?
You know, I actually had to say no too, because I feel badly. The marketing staff asked me to MC, and I very politely, I don't say this very often. Like, I try to say yes to just about every work thing possible, but it's my son's birthday that day, so I believe I'll be putt-putt golfing somewhere.
Let him run the 5K.
0-2 is fouled off. We've asked him several times, what do you want to do on your birthday? He's 2. Go putt-putt golfing, throw rocks in water. So that's on the agenda.
And run a 5K. Ooh, nice pitch.
He probably could beat me. In fact, you can just erase the word probably. And the pitch. Swung on and missed. Futrell gets the strikeouts. His 5th strikeout of the ball game. Nasty off-speed pitch there. And that takes care of Lundgren. 2 outs.
Number 44.
Good sequence of back-to-back pitches there. Fastball and try to get in under the hands and then come back to the big breaking ball that darts away from the left-handed hitter. Wasn't located in the best spot. Wasn't necessarily a chase pitch. Would have been a called strike 3, but sometimes just changing the eye level or the thought of, okay, he just came hard under my hands, and then just to decelerate and make him have to look at another area of the plate, a lot of times can just get that swing and miss.
Williams at the plate, 0 for 2 here tonight. No balls, 2 strikes. As Futrell throws. Breaking ball down. And Bulger keeps it in front of him. 1 ball, 2 strikes here with 2 outs. Base is empty. Vanderbilt 5-1 here in the bottom of the 6th inning. And the pitch on its way. Again, inside with the breaking ball. 2 balls, 2 strikes. And again, Bulger keeps it in front of him. And Futrell steps off. And wants a new baseball. Deep breath from the freshman, he throws. Just missed inside. 3 balls, 2 strikes.
Trying to make an adjustment on that breaking ball instead of boxing it up, trying to get that back foot chase.
That's swung on and lifted to right center field. Vaz and Bradfield come together. The center fielder with priority makes the call. And Bradfield makes the catch in shallow right center field. Futrell once again goes 1-2-3. He has not allowed a hit since the very first batter of this ball game to complete 56 games regular season. Breaking ball goes outside. 1 ball, no strikes. But it's still early. It is still early in the development of this lineup. Who's going to contribute offensively throughout the course of the SEC season? We are a long ways away from figuring out exactly what things look like come late April, come early May, and fingers crossed heading toward June. There's a strike outside corner.
Well, there's no doubt, because once you get to conference play, whether it's the SEC or any other league, it's a completely new season because it really becomes all that matters. What you come in with into SEC play, you can just throw it out the window because you know what you're getting every week, and those are going to be heavyweight boxing matches in this conference.
Foul tip swung on right back to the screen.
And to your point about it being early, you think back to that 2019 Vanderbilt team that lost 2 series on the road early at Texas A&M and at Georgia, and went on to win the conference pretty handily. Won 59 games, won the tournament, won the national championship. So wasn't a lot of panic going on with that club just because they knew, there were some injuries and there were some things. But what it got back to was guys were still establishing roles. That was the biggest piece, is trying to figure out what your lineup looks like down the stretch, how you build up some depth, how you build up some players that can help you off the bench. And then once you figure that out, a lot of times you're going to start rolling.
1-2. Outside. 2 balls, 2 strikes. And I recognize that the 2014 team was constructed way different than 2019. And of all of those seasons that Dansby was floating around, people talk about the 2013 team, about the quote-unquote greatness of it as much as the 14 or 15 teams. But that 14 team lost 5 SEC series. 5 of them.
Well, you certainly help yourself by being able to play at home in the postseason. There's just no debating that.
Right.
But it's never about, again, a lot of times it's about how you finish the season. And are you banged up going into the conference tournament and into the postseason? Are you healthy? Are you playing well? Is it starting to click? Because it's the team that plays best those last few weeks of the season. Great at bat here from Jack Bulger, just fouling off pitch after pitch. And it's not always the most talented team that wins at the end. It's just the team that's playing the best for that period of time. Sometimes it's the most talented. Sometimes those things sync up. But college baseball, and there's just so much parity across the sport, you have to have a lot of things that bounce your way to be able to finish on top at the end.
The 2-2. Swung on and foul tip right back to the screen. So Bulger continues to battle against Cheatwood here. It's a 2-2 count, but he's seen probably, 7, 8, 9 pitches so far.
Fouled off some fastballs, fouled off the breaking ball there. He's been on every single one of them. He hasn't missed them by very much. These aren't just swings where he's flicking the wrist just trying to stay alive. He's been on every single one of these pitches.
The 2-2. Up and away, 3-2. I feel almost silly saying this, but if Jack Bulger hits like the coaching staff thinks that Jack Bulger can hit, and that's not to say he's not performed. He has. But those gap power hits, the home runs from Bulger, the really impactful swings, Holy smokes, this lineup takes another huge jump. Here's the pitch. That's swung on and lifted foul out of play.
Well, he has that in him, and it's in the swing and it's in the body. You saw it with the near grand slam earlier in the game. We saw it here last Tuesday when he hit a line drive that was well out of the yard against Belmont. Had a few big home runs last year in SEC play. But again, talked about quality at bats a lot. He's somebody that's put several together in a row these last few games and just keeping it more simple than anything.
The 3-2. That is swung on and driven out to center field. Bulger launches this one, and again, it is caught at the warning track.
Just a heck of an at-bat. There's nothing else you can say about it, and that's one of those ones where even though it does not lead to something that is a net positive on the stats sheet, he saw a ton of pitches, and he still hits a ball probably as hard as you can possibly hit it and still stay in the yard. And we're not in any other ballpark, but in any other ballpark, we've said that a few times tonight, that one's probably scooting out. Probably over the batter's eye in Columbia.
With the wind that they had throughout the course of the weekend, it might have reached the Capitol building. There's a strike at the knees. Gavin Costas at the plate. Wind's blowing in. I felt so bad for Jack Bulger over the weekend and Vanderbilt in general. When he drove one, I think, out to right field. Was it right field? He nearly got one out of there in a close ball game, I think, on Saturday. That is swung on and missed. No balls, 2 strikes. I immediately looked to the flags. Those things had been bumping throughout the course of the afternoon. And I looked at the flags, and they were chilling for when Jack Bulger decided to try to pop one out of there.
Same for Davis Diaz on the ball he hit in the left center field gap. Sometimes that's just how it goes.
No balls, 2 strikes here on Casas. Right versus left, the pitch by Cheatwood. Up and away, 1 ball, 2 strikes.
You think back to that weekend, South Carolina, the defense on Sunday that really, I would say, kept them in the game. I mean, if that ball gets past the center fielder, it scores 3 runs, maybe even 4, just based because it was hit directly into center field.
It was going to come off the wall.
Yeah, where it hits, it's at least 3 runs, possibly an inside the park home run.
Check swing, they ring up Gavin Casas.
But those are the type of plays that early on in a game, people don't talk much about other than, hey, that was a great catch. Well, hey, that catch flipped the momentum of the game in many ways. And then Wimmer made a fantastic play that would have scored another run, I think, on a ball Dominic Keegan smoked up the middle where he went full extension dive and hops up and makes a throw. And coming up with the big hit, very important, but those defensive RBIs, if you want to call them that, those can be just as important in a game 3 in the SEC. Those are separators.
First pitch is fouled off by Tate Kolwick. 5-1 is our score, top of the 7th inning. Vanderbilt leads by 4. Those were the first things that Coach Corbin talked about when we spoke with him for the Commodore Hour back on Monday. So yesterday, it was the first thing he talked about. The play by Evan Stone in center field, the hit that was taken away from Dom Keegan, the defensive RBIs. Here's the pitch. It is lifted foul. No balls, 2 strikes.
We must spend a lot of time around each other then.
It's almost like, Brooks, you guys are, I don't know, across the hall from each other with your offices. I like your office. His is nice.
I like my office. I like his a lot more.
His is nice.
Fun place to hang out every day.
Incredibly. The 0-2. Called strike 3 outside corner. Yeah, Tate's a little bit frustrated, but that call has been there throughout the course of the night. That outside part of the plates Maxwell is at the plate here for Lipscomb. Bottom of the 7th inning. Pitch by Futrella is swung on, lifted out to left center field. Hewitt's song, Tharani makes the catch. That's the speed of the outfield there for Vanderbilt. That looked like that was tailor-made in between left and center. And Hewitt's got all of the speed in the world and closes it for the catch against Maxwell.
Yeah, he got a really good jump off the barrel right there, and this is an outfield combination for Vanderbilt going left to right. Hewitt, Bradfield, and Vaz that can cover a lot of ground, line to line, and in the gaps. Spencer Jones certainly no slouch when he's out there either, and I think you talk about those interchangeable pieces in the infield for sure, but definitely in the outfield where Vanderbilt can put some interesting alignments together.
There's a strike to Wilhoit. All three of those guys, or all four, can play and have played center field. I think Spencer played center field all summer for Brewster. Here's the pitch. Inside. 1 ball, 2 strikes. You made mention of the fact that the baseball offices at Vanderbilt are a fun place to be every single day. The article that I saw this morning, the 1-2, inside 2-2, only exemplified that even more. I lose track all of the time. The professional baseball players that come back, my office is right next door. You turn the corner, Tony Kemp is there. Rhett Wiseman is there. Whoever it happens to be, right? Kirk Casale is there, so on and so forth. Colin Snyder spends plenty of time back at Vanderbilt during the offseason, and if you didn't see it, a great, great article that The Athletic did on him this morning about his journey, everything he's been through personally, and his professional growth. Called strike 3 outside corner. Devin Futrell spots it up. Nice job outside part of the plate. There's 2 down here in this bottom of the 7th inning. Fandy 5-1, and Futrell gets his 6th strikeout.
Yeah, Colin's an awesome young man with a great story and some great stuff on the mound too. Pitched in some big games during his time at Vanderbilt from 2015 up until his draft year in 17, and was added to the 40-man roster of the Kansas City Royals. And with how he's pitched this spring, I think he'll have a chance to hopefully break camp with the big club or not be far behind. His stuff all offseason, it looked like big league stuff, I'll say that.
Goes up and away to Ethan Stamps. I love the part of the story, too, going back to his first couple of days on campus when he gets in there and finally clips 90. And I can't remember who the player was. I'm not sure if it was Carson Fulmer, swing and a miss, someone like that, who basically gave him a big hug and said, "Welcome to Vanderbilt. You just clipped 90. Now you're a Vandy Boys pitcher." The 1-2. Swung on, grounded left side. It scoops to Diaz. Nice play. Scoops it up and throws off to first.
Hitters, but he's also started putting them away on his own. So when he hasn't been able to go for that strikeout, he's been inducing early contact, which has allowed him to get through 7 complete.
First pitch by Maldonado goes inside. This is Lipscomb's Maldonado. Not related that I'm aware of. 1-0 to Vaz. That goes inside. 2 balls, no strikes. My little tidbit that I picked up from Maldonado, our Maldonado, earlier here today, just talking about some of the fields that he's played on throughout the course of his career. Specifically, I guess his younger brother had a game snowed out in New Jersey just the other day. That one is swung on, grounded toward the right side. Stamps is there, scoops and throws 4-3 to put out on Javi Vaz. And we joked back and forth, he's New Jersey, Northeast people, you're used to games in March and April getting snowed out. The benefit for him, he went to the same high school as Rick Porcello, who donated about $1 million to get a turf put in. So they can brush off that snow and play fairly effectively. That's a huge plus for them.
It's awfully nice of Rick.
Isn't it? Here's Calvin Hewitt. And the pitch. There's a strike outside corner. I did talk with him a bit, too. Look, he's on the mend. Nick Maldonado's getting better. That's not the point of this. It's just the fact that his brother has gone through similar things. Nick's older brother, Frank, played at Pittsburgh. He got banged up throughout the course of his career. There's the strike, count goes to 0-2. And Nick was really thankful that he's had his older brother to lean on through this. Look, Nick is a very talented pitcher. Again, he's getting closer to coming back eventually at some point. That's obviously the training staff's call. But the fact that he's had that support system that is swung on and flared, right field side, this one is drifting foul out of play. That sort of stuff makes a world of difference for these players. And I love the family structure there for Nick Maldonado, because he's got his older brother to lean on and older sister who played softball at Notre Dame. And then Nick's younger brother has Nick to lean on at some point. It's a great family structure for all of those athletes.
It is. When you can lean into people who have been through it, maybe not the exact same situation, but have been in your shoes, doesn't make it any easier while you're having to sit off to the side, but it does give you things you can compare to, and they can at least relate to what you're feeling and where you are on your path to getting back, and hopefully Nick will be back on that mound soon enough.
1 for 3 here tonight for Hewitt. And the pitch is swung on and popped up right field side. This one is peeling foul again. It's somewhat of a similar story for Bradfield just in terms of the recruiting process. His older sister played college soccer at American, I believe, in Washington, D.C. So he leaned on her to go through the recruiting process here, kind of understanding what he wanted in his own college experience. To be able to have that sort of stuff is, it's great for each and every one of these individuals, whatever their particular needs might be. No balls, 2 strikes. And the pitch. Up and inside, 1-2. Those poor older siblings that have to do everything on their own, huh?
Are you one of those poor older siblings?
I'm an only child, so
okay.
I flew solo.
All right. Thought maybe you were leading into something there.
Nah. The 1-2. Swing and miss. So Maldonado strikes out Hewitt.
It's a really nice sequence there from Maldonado. Thought he had Cal kind of pulling off back-to-back breaking balls. And he fouled off down the first baseline, then elevated a fastball to try to change up his timing, and then blows another one past him right there. Low to mid-90s heat from Matthew Maldonado.
Brings us to Carter Young. First pitch is fouled off. So 2 outs. Base is empty here, top of the 8th inning. Vanderbilt 5-1. Trying to pick up the 20th win of the season here for the Doors. And get set for the Tennessee Vols coming in Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. 6 p.m., 7 p.m., and 1 p.m. The 0-1. Outside. 1 ball, 1 strike.
Numbers for Maldonado coming in, not great, but just looking at the stuff alone, it's one of the best arms we've seen all night. Big, sharp, a downer breaking ball and a heavy fastball to go along with it.
That's swung on, grounded right side as Stamps will charge. He gloves. He has to double a clutch, and Carter is safe. So Ketchup was closing in the shortstop gear for Lipscomb. And that altered the throwing trajectory of Stamps. And because of that, Carter's safe at first.
Carter Young gets down the line well, but that was that big breaking ball and another well-executed pitch from Maldonado that Carter just kind of spiked right into the ground, and have to commend the hard 90. Just getting out of the box, hot out of the box, keep the feet moving, beats that one out pretty easily.
Top of the order for Bradfield Jr. First pitch, up and away. 1 ball, no strikes. Obviously, Lipscomb thinking that Carter Young is going to take off at some point here in this at-bat.
Definitely could. We've seen a lot of 2-out rallies that have been extended when the order has been flipped over for Vanderbilt back to Bradfield. And a good runner on first base in Carter Young. Have to think at some point Enrique's going to break through with a ball in one of these gaps or down the line.
1 ball, 1 strike. And the pitch. It's swung on and popped up. This should be playable here for Lipscomb. For someone, third baseman Will Hoyt drops it. Again, the second time that, and I don't want to over-project on the defense here, but it's the second time that Ketchup was closing on a play that appeared to alter his teammates' ability to field it, possibly just mentally. But the presence was there that it changed something.
Well, just based on Ketchup's momentum and the angle that he's running towards that ball, once Will Hoyt kind of flipped his hips right there and starts backpedaling, I know he was camped and could have made the catch, but that's almost one where with the shortstop having priority over the third baseman, you rather just have him catch that one in stride coming across the baseball.
1-1. Up and away.
And if you're Maldonado, got to be really frustrated because just had a chance to extinguish any opportunity of 2-out offense from Vanderbilt. We'll have to go back to work on Bradfield.
Should say 2-2. The pitch is swung on and chopped to third base. Will Hoyt will bobble, and everybody is safe. Carter Young makes a turn at second. Ketchup will back up the play. So Carter stays put down at second base. Runners at first and seconds. And that brings us to Davis Diaz. 5-1 is our score, top of the 8th inning.
Now batting for the Commodores, number 11.
Almost the exact same result as the previous at bat with Carter Young. Breaking ball that kind of starts lower part of the zone and dives out. Really all you could do with that pitch is hit it straight into the ground, especially with 2 strikes, just to stay alive. I think even if Will Hoyt fields that one, Bradfield probably beats it out. A good piece of 2-strike hitting, just give yourself a chance.
Breaking ball inside here from Maldonado. 1 ball, no strikes, runners at first and seconds. Feels like the first time Vanderbilt's had a threat in a couple of innings. Maybe since the 5th.
Yeah, I was going to say the 5th or maybe the 6th, but even those were innings that were built up on free bases. Carter Young, I think, drew a walk, and Bradfield drew a walk. Almost the same scenario here. You've got 9-1 on base. Diaz, who has just been so clutch this year in a lot of different ways, has a chance to extend this lead late in the ball game.
Fastball for a strike outside corner, 2-1. From the stretch here for Maldonado. And he throws outside, 3-1. A lot of velocity from this staff. And that's, look, I don't know if the radar gun here on the scoreboard is accurate or not. Whatever. 93, 94. I've seen 95 up there. So whether that's off by 1 or 2, I don't know. But plenty of velocity here from the staff for the Bisons.
And you got to be ready for it right here on the 3-1.
Ball 4, fastball at 94, but it stays high. Bases loaded here for Dom Keegan.
And a good take there. Obviously, you want to be aggressive on a 3-1, but the fastball, it's kind of at the top shelf, if you will. That's one that you really got to be dialed in on to try to stay on top of, or else you're going to end up with a pop out. Keep this rally going and pass it on to Vanderbilt's best hitter in Dominic Keegan. It's a nice job to lay off, and said this a million times. Another good at bat from Davis Diaz.
This will test my theory here. Obviously, Dom has put together plenty of 2 or 3 hit ball games throughout the course of the season. But I swear, every time he goes 1 for 4, that one is a 2-run double or a 3-run home run. Sacrifice fly here tonight for Tom, but otherwise 0 for 2. 1 for 3 with a double to the gap that scores 3.
You'll take it, but those 2 have been just balls that were scorched into the right center field gap. And I think as he almost gets plunked there, I think if you're Dom, veteran player, understand the situation. You'll do whatever it takes just to find a way to add another run to the scoreboard here.
2 outs, bases loaded. Vandy leads by 4, 5-1. Top of the 8th inning. The 1-0. Fastball misses high, 2-0. Regardless of record here tonight for Lipscomb at 12-12 so far this season, this is a squad that went toe-to-toe and beat Louisville, ranked in the top 25 last week. 6-2 was the final. The 2-0. Dom swings and scorches this one up the middle and under the glove of Stamps. There's 1 run. It's Carter Young. Here comes Bradfield. That scores 2. Vanderbilt 7-1. Dom Keegan finally breaks through. He smacks that one toward the right side and picks up a couple of RBIs.
Well, there's your 2 RBIs. Not a double, but that one probably a ground ball that had to be around 100 miles per hour or higher off the bat. Second baseman wasn't too far from it. I almost wonder if where Stamps was playing in the shift, if his view was somewhat blocked by the umpire at second base. It was going to be a tough play either way, just with the energy that came off the barrel. A nice piece of hitting. Again, bases loaded situation. Not trying to do too much. Middle of the field. And that wins again for Vanderbilt.
Runners at the corners here. Diaz at third, Keegan's at first. First pitch to Bolger is swung on and skewered foul.
And that's what offenses can do with 2 outs, right? Infield single, a walk, get your best hitter to the plate. Innings are never over.
Oh, 1. Excuse me, swing gets fouled off. Right back toward the screen. 0-2.
And you have to feel bad for Maldonado in some ways because he's just made some really good pitches and should have been out of the inning. Woulda, coulda, shoulda. And he's still out there having to go through the teeth of this Commodore lineup.
The pitch. Outside. 1 ball, 2 strikes. From his perspective, silently, he has already recorded 4 outs. He will need at least 5 here in this inning. Silently. His perspective, silently. So 7-1, the new score. 1-2. That swung on, lifted out to right field. That should be playable here for the right fielder for Lipscomb. The 2-1. Lifted foul.
And no lead is insurmountable. But the difference in a 5-1 game and a 7-1 game just feels completely different when you get into the last 2 frames. Those are big runs, especially with 2 outs for Vanderbilt.
Just ask Vanderbilt with the way that South Carolina did it on Saturday. The 2-2. That's low, 3-2. And not that it's relevant considering the fact that South Carolina did win on Saturday, but that home run that Spencer Jones hit to make it 8-6, I've watched the video several times. I do not know where that baseball landed. I could not find it.
It landed in Charleston.
That is swung on, hit to center field as Bradfield's on the run toward the track, and he makes the catch. That's where, for the sake of Jabari Brown, you say it landed in Orangeburg. Or, for the sake of Corbin, you say it landed in Clinton.
Now batting for the
That's fair.
Number 8.
That's fair. Clinton, South Carolina.
Ketchup.
Been there.
How many times?
It's off I-85, right?
It sure is.
Yeah, so a lot. And I think I don't know if they have a Starbucks off that exit. There's a gas station. Used to pass that. No, that direction. Seriously, going from Raleigh when I lived there to Birmingham.
I actually don't think, I'll double check this. It may not be off of I-85. It may be off of 26. The 1 or 2 times that I went there, there's a strike outside corner. Count goes to 1-1. There was a lovely, lovely Fats Cafe. Have you been to one of those before?
Yeah, been to a Fats in Clemson, actually, I think.
That is Popped hard to center field. There's a base hit by Caleb Ketchup. So he's 1 for 2 here tonight. That's the first hit of the ball game since the first. And ends a remarkable stretch here for Devin Futrell.
Getting Clinton confused now that I think about it. Thinking of Gaffney.
Yeah,
in
good old
South Carolina.
Gaffney with
That's
the peach.
off 85. Yeah, with
the big
peach.
old peach.
Yeah, but there is a Starbucks off that exit. Might even be saved in my Google Maps.
There's also what looks like a rather rickety wedding chapel in Gaffney, right off the highway. That one is swung on a hit out to right center field as Bradfield comes in and makes the catch. I did mention the fact that I've been to Clemson to coach Corbin and mentioned the Fact Cafe, and he kind of chuckled a little bit because there's not much in Clinton. And the work, I will say, in all seriousness, the work that Corbin, and this is, look, we've been down this road over the course of 20 years. The work he did in that place to help lift them to even being functional at the Division I level is remarkable, especially if you've been to Clinton and if you have been to Presbyterian. That is not a simple place to either A, get to, or B, get functioning. That one is swung on, hit hard to left field, playable for Calvin Hewitt, makes the catch, and there's your third and final out. So Futrell, through our chatter about Gaffney and Clinton, handles this part of the order with relative ease again. Takes care of business with Coppage, takes care of business with Houghton, and we go top 7 weeks, I guess. So Matt Polk to lead things off. We've reached pinch hitter time here for Vanderbilt. Matthew Polk will stand in from the right side. New pitcher for Lipscomb as well. Left versus right to start things off here in the top of the 9th inning. And the pitch. Inside corner for a strike. New pitcher is Hayden Frank, a freshman out of Tennessee. Went to McMinnville County High School. The 0-1. Swung on straight back.
And Polk, the freshman from Southern California, has gotten some action so far this year and made the most of it. Some pinch hit opportunities that come into the game and been aggressive and looking to put the ball in play. Could see him earn some more at-bats down the stretch.
The 0-2, up and away. I'm intrigued by Polk. There seems to be some offensive tools there. We'll see how it comes together, but the tools seem to be something that you can at least work with.
He packs a punch in that frame. Strong young man, and he gives you some versatility with what he can do defensively as well.
That's swung on, lifted down the right field line. This will go foul. 2 strikes here on Matthew Polk.
Played for one of the better high school programs in the country, Orange Lutheran. So he's adept to playing high levels of competition, seeing the type of arms that go on to play high-level college baseball. I think that can make the transition a lot easier when you come to a place like Vanderbilt of, hey, I've seen this type of velocity before, maybe not as refined, but the speed of the game, there's less of an adjustment that's needed when you've seen it for a few years.
And the pitch is flared foul, first base side. Ooh, almost a great catch. Almost a great catch.
Oh, he's getting booed heavily. I think those are his friends, though. So
yeah, it's
okay.
a tough L. It's a tough L.
Just glad he didn't fall onto the field.
The reverse Colwyn. Frank steps off for a second. Left versus right here with Matthew Polk.
And pitch hitting it's not easy, right? You've sat here for 8 innings watching the game, and you get that call of, hey, stay loose, or hey, you're hitting. It's usually one of the two. So for him to be able to jump in there and a pitcher he hasn't seen to put together an at-bat like this, you like that a lot.
Called strike 3 right at the knees.
But you don't like that a lot. frozen by a fastball on the inner third.
Now batting for the Commodores, number 6.
Saw some pitches.
Tate.
Definitely not a bad at bat by any stretch. That one, a really well-located pitch. Caught the black of the inside corner. Good start to the inning for Frank.
So he takes the place of Gavin Casas, which brings up Tate Colwick. Which brings us to Coach Forehand. Base is empty, 1 down here in the top of the 9th inning. Vandy leads 7-1. Likely, although not guaranteed. First pitch swung on and missed. On a trajectory for its 20th win of the season here tonight. And the pitch. That goes up and inside. 1 ball, 1 strike. I say this, Brooks, and you're going to reach across and smack me upside the head.
Then don't say it.
Okay, I'm going to say it anyway. Knock on wood. Has Vandy lost a midweek game yet?
I didn't hear what you said.
Right. That one is swung on and popped up foul. My point being is, never take these games lightly.
I mean, look across college baseball, right?
Yes.
Over the course of the entire season. Winning is difficult, and it does not matter who you play. You're going to get everybody's best shot, especially an in-state team or an in-city team in this case. Vanderbilt knew they were going to get everything they could from this Lipscomb club that you referenced. Knocked off Louisville already just a few days ago, and these games are always tightly contested between Vanderbilt and Lipscomb, Vanderbilt and Belmont, and really any team that you're going to play in a midweek.
2-2. Called strike 3. And then on top of that, too, as well, Brooks. Look, if you take care of business in the midweeks, you take your total wins from 40 to 45, or 45 to 50, or 35 to 40, whoever you are, right? And all of a sudden, you become a regional host, or you take yourself from a regional host to a top 8 national seed, because 45 looks a heck of a lot better than 40, or 50 a lot better than 45, whatever it is. And conference slates are going to be a slog no matter what. If you take care of business in the midweek, that's outside Topaz, all of a sudden, your record immediately vaults in the eyes of the selection committee. So when I say don't take midweeks lightly, that's why.
Yeah, that's where they're difference makers. They are the games that flip you into being able to play all the way at home through the postseason, or you mentioned national seeds, or sometimes can be the difference in whether you host or not, just based on how you took care of your business when you play a tough non-conference schedule on some of these Tuesdays. And you just cannot take the midweeks for granted at any point during the season, because they do stack up.
That stays high. I've worked with college baseball teams that I swear, if you just go back and flip 4 midweek games, all of a sudden they go from on the bubble to not, to being in the tournament to a 2 or whatever it is. And sometimes it comes down against Lipscomb or VMI or the Citadel, with all due respect to those programs. There's a strike outside corner. With all due respect to those programs, you take care of business those games. Different story come the end of the month of May.
And it's unlike any other sport, right? Anybody can beat anybody in college baseball. It really doesn't matter what the records are, who the teams are. Baseball is just a different game in that way. Not to say it can't happen in other sports, but a lot more common in baseball. And you look at the scoreboard across the country tonight. Alabama, I think, came from behind to beat South Alabama. And not just in our league. Arkansas was down to Arkansas Little Rock in the middle innings. So you can always just glance at the scoreboard on a Tuesday or a Wednesday night, and you're going to see a lot of those type of scores with teams that are presumably, quote-unquote, better than the other team on paper. That it does not always end that way when the final line score flashes up there.
Now batting for the Commodores.
Ball four to Javi Vaz, so here's Calvin Hewitt. He gets one more chance, 1 for 4 here today. Our score 7-1 here in the top of the 9th inning. Vanderbilt leads by 6. Dom Keegan with a 2-run single back in the 8th has provided the separation here for Vanderbilt late in this ball game. And the pitch, Vaz takes off, and there's no chance. Javi Vaz is safe down at second base. That was, for the folks that saw the Texas Tech steal of home walk-off, the jump that Javi just got was akin to that. He was a third of the way to second base before the pitcher even moved. The 0-1. Breaking ball misses inside. 1 ball, 1 strike.
It looks like he might be thinking about doing it again. Out there at second base. Active feet, always looking to take the next bag. And at a minimum, just split the pitcher's mind. Make him think about something other than the hitter at the plate.
Breaking ball swung on and missed by Calvin. Which here tonight, if you're going to do some post-game diagnostics on Calvin Hewitt, he did strike out on a big sweeping slider outside earlier. So if you're Calvin, you go back to the lab and say, I have to be better on those pitches. 1-2. That is swung on and popped up. Let's see who takes charge. It's the shortstop. Ketchup comes behind the bag at second, makes the catch. There's your third and final out. So that'll do it here in the top. And the pitch. There's a strike at the knees. 1 ball, 1 strike. If you've not read up on Ken Revizza, very much encourage that quick Google search. That's up and away. 2 balls, 1 strike meant something to a lot of people in the game of baseball. Passed away back in 2018. In fact, within short order, as that one is swung on and flared right back. With his close friend and so many close friends in college baseball, Augie Garrido. In fact, Ken Revizza is in part thankful throughout the course of his career to Augie Garrido, as that one is swung on and bounced to first base. Dom Keegan picks it up. The short version of the story is that Ken Revizza started working with the Cal State Fullerton gymnastic team with mental health and mental performance. And then Augie Garrido at Cal State Fullerton at the time back in the 80s pulled him over. And from there, Ken Revizza started to make his way through the baseball circles. So Malik Williams here at the plate. There's 2 outs here, bottom of the 9th inning. That one is swung. There's a strike outside corner, has been excellent. 8 1/3, 2 hits, 1 run, 6 strikeouts, 2 walks. He's thrown 97 pitches so far tonight. The 0-2 just missed off the plates. 1-2. Offensively, really 2 big swings for Vanderbilt. First off, a 2-run single by Calvin Hewitt that came back in the 2nd, and then a 2-run single by Dom Keegan that came in the 8th inning. That's fouled off by Malik Williams. Dom Keegan also picked up a sacrifice fly that scored a run. Vanderbilt scored 4 in the 2nd, 1 in the 4th, and 2 in the 8th. And the pitch. That swung on, fouled straight back, and just, 15 feet above my head. The 1-2. Breaking ball in the dirt. Well, Devin Futrell has been fun to watch here tonight. There's no doubt. As he kicks and throws the 2-2. That's swung on, lifted toward right center field. Playable here for Javi Vaz. Calls off Bradfield and makes the catch. So 2 outs here in the bottom of the 9th inning as Vanderbilt is looking to close the door on its 20th win of the season. Plus, get Devin Futrell a complete game here tonight. Boy, do you barely see complete games in college baseball these days. Really, in baseball in general. A chance here tonight for Futrell. First pitch to Maxwell. He swings and flares that right back. No balls, 1 strike. Left versus right. Devin Futrell, the freshman from just outside of Miami. 8 2/3, 2 hits, 1 run. 6 strikeouts and 2 walks. The 0-1. That swung on, hit out to right field. On his way back, Javi Vaz at the wall, and he will make the